Thank you for the opportunity to come to talk and to kind of voice concerns that I have. I've been teaching up here at BC in person really after the spring semester where we shut down for about 6 weeks, and I started teaching again in person in the fall. So teaching automotive, it's pretty hard to try to teach a hands-on craft in an online environment. And so I have a lot of grace for how the district really has handled this stuff at the beginning of the pandemic, when we didn't have the luxury of knowing what we know now. In the beginning, we were told that the death rate may be as high as 10 and 20%. And back then, decisions were being made out of fear of the unknown, and then the best scientific guess. But that's really not the situation that we're in today. Now that we have 2 years of real data to make decisions from, I don't understand how we can continue down the path that we're on as a district. It's like we have eyes that don't see and ears that don't hear. So we now have compelling evidence that natural immunity is superior to that of vaccination. And the vaccinated and the unvaccinated alike can contract and spread and die from the virus. I've had many vaccinated students contact me that have had to quarantine because they're sick and they tested positive. The vaccine's proven to fail at preventing the spread of COVID, and yet it's still required by the district policy, while natural immunity is being ignored like it doesn't exist. And I don't think that's very scientific. So we're required to wear a mask, but the masks that people are wearing are ineffective at filtering an aerosolized viral particle. And certainly touching your face and mask with dirty hands constantly and contaminating your mask should be considered much more unhealthy for the individual than not wearing a mask at all. So to me, that's common sense. In light of all of the data and the information that we know now, it surprises me and it frustrates me that the district continues to hang on to these policies and has doubled down on their enforcement by hiring private security to run off the students that don't comply. Throughout the pandemic, I've always been on the side of liberty, to let people choose for themselves how they want to deal with this. People should be afforded the freedom to make their own risk assessment. So vaccine hesitancy is real. It's not unreasonable. And there are risks from contracting COVID, and there are risks from the new vaccine. And those risks are not the same for all age groups even. I believe it's unjust for the district and the administration to force their preference of being vaccinated on all of the students, faculty, and staff. And we're seeing that reality play out in the courts right now as mandates like this are being overturned. The district policy does not promote the liberty that our great country was founded upon, and the majority of the policies are completely discriminatory based on the 14th Amendment and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. So the 14th Amendment to the Constitution affords us equal treatment under the law. And it's common knowledge that anyone can contract COVID regardless of their vaccination status. And yet the district policy still requires the unequal treatment of weekly testing only those that have exemptions. So why is that? And how is that following the science? Title VII of the Civil Rights Act prohibits discrimination against anyone based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. So in light of the Civil Rights Act, it would also seem inconsistent to me that religious exemptions are scrutinized while other personal beliefs like gender declarations on this campus are required to be accepted without question. Personal beliefs should be respected. So it's been my experience with my own students that firmly held religious beliefs are consistently questioned and challenged. The majority of the students that I'm aware of that tried to obtain religious exemptions to the vaccine have had to persistently fight to obtain a religious exemption. And many gave up or either quit coming to school altogether and went and got vaccinated so that they could register for classes. One of my students quit coming to school altogether and went back to work in the fields because he didn't want to get vaccinated and he's not religious. So there was no option for him. And that honestly breaks my heart. And I think it's unacceptable. And on top of that, it's unconstitutional to put somebody in that situation. And so KCCD I believe, is going to find itself on the wrong side of history for how they've dealt with people during the pandemic. So we certainly are marginalizing some of our students and potential students in our community based on the policy that's been set forth and enforced by private security. And every day I come to campus, I'm now burdened with the frustration that the college that I work for is wronging our students and the community with its policy. So we're recommitting the sins of the past by segregating our students in our community, not based on white or black this time, but based on vaccinated or unvaccinated. So we're supposed to be a community college that serves the needs of the community that we live in, so that the members of this community can come here and get an education, some training, certification, and better their lives. But the district policy doesn't reflect the community that we serve. Currently, the vaccination rate in Kern County is around 51%, and yet BC pushes 100% vaccination to come to the college. So the divide between the community at 51% and the policy goal of 100% vaccination by the district should not be ignored. Surely this divide accounts for the fact that the enrollment numbers are lower today than they were during the height of the pandemic. The policy is what changed between then and now. So how can we pretend that the low enrollment numbers that we see today are due to some other cause? Isn't it the change in policy more logical to cause that sort of effect in enrollments? To me, this is really a tragedy, which is causing some of our potential students in our community to delay their education in hopes that the policy will change. But that delay comes at a cost for them. There's only so many working years that you have in your lifetime. So if they delay their education a year, now 2 years, 3 years, if we continue with this policy, then ask yourself how much better off the student would have been if they had been afforded the opportunity to come to school and better themselves by getting an education. To close, I think it's really short-sighted to push for policies that you happen to agree with today while simultaneously undermining your own freedoms and liberties in the future. So politics never stay the same and leaders come and go. So if we keep going with policies like this, then what are we going to do? What would someone do when a new leader comes along that forces policies that they disagree with? In that case, you'll have no leg to stand on. If we set a bad precedent today and don't stand up for an individual's right to choose for themselves, that's all I have to say.